Chapter 8. Emily sank to her knees beside the dog. Tiger was lying on his back. He was dead. His eyes had already sunk into his head. Oh no, oh no. He had a large wound in his chest, straight like a cut. It was a cut, a deep cut. Tiger must have been stabbed. He lay in a dark pool of drying blood. Oh no, 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 no. Emily picked up the little dog in her arms, blood trickling down the front of her white sweater. There's a killer in this house, Emily thought. We're living with a killer. She pictured Tiger bounding across the floor, his little legs moving like a speeded-up movie, his stubby tail switching from side to side. Then she pictured Jessie angrily kicking at him, Jessie angrily tossing him hard to the floor. Jessie hated Tiger. There's a killer in this house. Help me, Emily screamed. Somebody, help me! Mrs. Wallner came running down the stairs first, followed by her husband. Help me, please! They were followed by Nancy, Jessie, and Rich, all in pajamas, all wide-eyed, frightened-looking, all forcing themselves awake. When they burst into the kitchen, Emily was still holding the corpse in her arms, her hands covered with blood. Tiger? Nancy screamed. What on earth? Emily, are you okay? Tiger's dead, Emily said unnecessarily. Put it down, Jessie pleaded. Mrs. Wallner leaned against the kitchen counter, trying to catch her breath. She looked as white as the Formica countertop, and under the harsh fluorescent glare of the overhead light, she looked older than usual and tired, streaks of gray showing in her coppery hair. Someone must have broken in, she said, keeping her head down, avoiding having to look at Tiger. But who would break in just to murder a dog? Emily cried. Put it down, Jessie shrieked. No sign of any break-in, Mr. Wallner said after checking all the windows. Here, Em, let me take that. He reached for the dog's body, but Emily turned away, refusing to give it up. Your sweater? It's ruined, Nancy said, tears in her eyes. Emily looked at Rich. His blonde hair was matted against his forehead. His pajama shirt had ridden up, revealing a few inches of pale stomach. His eyes looked red and bloodshot. He looked away, avoiding her gaze. He hadn't uttered a cry. In fact, he hadn't said a word. Emily, let me have the dog, Mr. Wallner said gently. Emily relented. He took the dog from her arms and carried it away. Where are you taking him? Emily called after him. Just to the back stoop. I'll call the ASPCA in the morning. They'll come and take him away. He pulled open the kitchen door with his free hand and stepped outside in his pajamas. It's so awful, Jessie said, dropping down onto one of the tall stools in front of the counter. Who would do such a horrible thing? Emily glared accusingly at her. You never liked Tiger. Jessie's mouth dropped open. You're not accusing me, are you? You never liked Tiger, Emily repeated. She tried to clear her mind, but the picture of the murdered dog wouldn't fade from view. She kept seeing it over and over. It felt as if she were in a dream, where everything repeated and repeated. You never liked Tiger. Had she already said that? Hadn't this all happened before? Several times before? Was it happening now? No, I don't like dogs, Jessie said, but I wouldn't kill an innocent animal. Somebody did, Nancy said in a flat, weary voice. I don't see what good it will do to stand here and accuse each other, Mrs. Wallner said. She moved forward and put her arms around Emily. But someone in this room murdered Tiger, Emily cried. We have to know who did it. We have to. Maybe it was an accident, her mother said. Maybe Tiger fell on something sharp. Fell on what? Mr. Wallner asked. I just don't want to believe that someone in this house could have. Mrs. Wallner's words choked in her throat. Of course not, Emily thought. Mom never wants to believe anything bad about anybody. She doesn't want to believe that Jessie is capable of killing, but the evidence is so clear. She looked over to Nancy. Her sister had her arms crossed tightly over her chest, as if trying to hold her feelings in, as if trying to hold herself together. I heard Rich walking around earlier tonight, Nancy said. I got up to get a drink of water, Rich whined, his voice cracking, his first words of the night. Rich, if you did this, Mr. Wallner said quietly, looking down at the dark puddle of blood on the linoleum, tell us now. If you need help from us, let us know. You won't be punished, I promise. We'll get you the help you need. He said this softly, caringly. Emily was surprised. It wasn't the way her stepfather usually reacted. He usually barreled into a situation without thinking of anyone's feelings, especially Rich's. But this was serious, and Mr. Wallner was treating it that way. But I didn't do it, Rich cried, his voice rising several octaves. He suddenly looked very frightened. This isn't right. We can't just stand here and accuse each other, Mrs. Wallner said. That book you've been reading, Nancy said to Rich, Pet Cemetery? I read that. It's about a pet that dies, and then the people bring it back from the dead. So what? Rich shouted. So what? Rich, I mean what I said, Mr. Wallner said, staring at his trembling son. You won't be punished, I promise. Just tell us the truth. I am telling the truth, Rich cried. I'm not a killer. Just because I read books doesn't mean I'm a killer. He turned and fled from the room. They could hear him running up the stairs. Then they heard his bedroom door slam. I think we should all go to bed and try to get a little sleep, Mrs. Wallner said, holding onto her husband's arm, gripping it so tightly Mr. Wallner winced. How can we sleep? Emily cried. Maybe Rich needs to see a shrink, too, Mr. Wallner said suddenly, lost in his own thoughts. But I don't see how I can afford to send 2 kids to the shrink. Emily saw Jessie blush. No one in the family was supposed to know that Jessie was seeing a shrink. Everything will be clear in the morning, Mrs. Wallner said, tugging at her husband's arm. But we have a real serious problem on our hands, Mr. Wallner insisted. But Hugh... Okay, he said, scratching his bald head. Go on upstairs, dear. I'll just clean up the floor and then I'll be up. I'm going up too, Jessie said, and disappeared from the room. You want me to stay downstairs and we'll talk? Nancy asked Emily. No, I guess not, Emily said. She didn't know what she wanted. She wanted for this not to have happened. Go on back to sleep, Nance. I don't think any of us will sleep tonight, Nancy said sadly, but she turned and, still hugging herself, headed up to her room. Mr. Wallner headed to the broom closet to get a mop. Jessie did it, Emily told her mother, who had hesitated at the door. What? You heard me, Mom. Jessie did it. I know she did. She hated Tiger. She hates me. Emily, her mother started, then stopped. She was thinking hard, trying to figure out what to say. Why do you accuse Jessie of everything? Because she's the one who's doing these terrible things, Emily said softly, slowly, suddenly feeling very sleepy despite the horror, despite the picture of the dead dog that wouldn't leave her mind. But you have no proof, just because you have a hunch. It's not a hunch. I know it's Jessie, Emily shouted, feeling the anger rise, catching her throat, making her feel about to cry. You don't really know her, Mom. She's different from what you think she is. She acts real sweet when you're around, but then when we're alone, she... You've got to ask yourself why you are always trying to blame Jessie, her mother said. Are you jealous of her for some reason? You shouldn't be. You know, Jessie is your sister now, and... Mother, why won't you ever listen to me? Emily screamed. But I am listening, dear. I know that you and Jessie are having problems. Maybe the 3 of us should sit down and have a long talk. We could... Oh, what's the point? Emily cried, out of control and unable to do anything about it. Tears ran down her cheeks. She ran past her mother to the stairs. Her mother made no attempts to stop her or call her back. She has no intention of ever confronting Jessie, Emily thought bitterly as she climbed the stairs. She always thinks that if she ignores things, they'll simply go away. When Daddy died, she was no help at all. Nancy and I had to do everything. She's the child in the family. We're all grown-ups compared to Mom. The light was on in her room. Emily stopped at the doorway. What was she going to say to Jessie? How could she go to sleep in the same room with the girl who had murdered her dog? I'll call the police, she thought. No, the police wouldn't be interested in a murdered dog. Or would they? They might, except her mother was right. Emily didn't have any proof. And what if it was Rich, that weirdo with his Stephen King books? He'd already been caught committing one crime. Was he capable of killing a dog? Emily? Oh! Jessie had come up from behind in the hallway, startling Emily. Sorry, I didn't mean to frighten you. I was in the bathroom. You must be so upset. I'm running you a hot bath. You are? Emily felt totally confused. She was prepared for an angry confrontation with her stepsister, and here was Jessie acting so concerned. A hot bath will make you feel better, Jessie said softly, and you can wash off all the blood. Thanks, Jess. Go get undressed. It's almost ready. I used a lot of that bath oil you like. She gave Emily a gentle push into the bedroom, then headed across the hall to tend to the bathwater. Emily stood in the middle of the bedroom, feeling somewhat dazed. Why was Jessie being so nice to her? To cover up her guilt? She kicked off her shoes, then pulled off the blood-stained sweater. She crumpled it in a ball and tossed it into a corner. She heard her mother come up the stairs and stop at her bedroom door. Em, you going to be okay? Yes, Mother, she told her without turning around. Get some sleep. Her mother patted down the hallway to her room. Something caught Emily's eye on a counter Jessie used for a desk. She walked over to it. It was Jessie's diary. Emily listened to the water still running into the tub. She picked up the diary. It was a fat, leather-bound book with a metal clasp. The clasp was open. Jessie had left the diary unlocked. Curious, Emily flipped back through the pages, glancing at the doorway to make sure Jessie wasn't returning. The diary seemed to cover several years. In her tiny, precise handwriting, Jessie had faithfully filled in just about every day. Reading quickly, not finding anything terribly interesting, Emily heard footsteps in the hall. She slammed the book back down on a counter and took a step back, but it was only her stepfather on his way to bed. Breathing hard, she picked up the diary again. Her eyes settled on a long, upsetting passage from just a few days before. Emily blamed me again, Jessie had written. I don't know what to do about her, but I've got to do something. The tub water stopped. Emily closed the diary. She realized she was trembling. I've got to read more, she thought. I've got to know what Jessie is planning. I've got to know just how dangerous she is. She carried the diary quickly over to her bed and hid it under her pillow. I'll wait till Jessie is asleep, and then I'll read more, she thought. Aren't you undressed yet? The water is ready. Jessie stepped into the room, drying her wet hands on the front of her pajamas. Oh, thanks. Emily didn't move. Emily, are you okay? Jessie asked, putting a warm hand on her shoulder. The touch of Jessie's hand drove the swirling thoughts from Emily's mind. Go take your bath. You'll feel better. Okay, you're being very nice, Jessie. I just feel so bad, Jessie said. Emily finished undressing in the bathroom, then stopped at the edge of the tub. The bathwater smelled so good. Jessie had used a lot of the lilac bath oil Emily loved. The room was so steamy, warm, and comforting. Emily looked down at the brown bloodstains on her hands and arms. Got to wash this away. But as she prepared to step into the tub, she was stopped by a stab of fear. Cold fear. The water. What had Jessie done to the water? She had poured peroxide into the shampoo. She had deliberately ruined Emily's hair with that dreadful trick. Emily stared down into the steaming bathwater, suddenly feeling sick, feeling heavy, so heavy, weighed down by fear, paralyzed by her realization that something was wrong here. Was the water scalding hot? Was that Jessie's trick for tonight? Or had she poured something horrible into the water, some kind of acid that would eat away all of Emily's flesh and leave her skeleton soaking in the tub? The water was blue-green from the bath oil. But what else was in there? What was the blue-green color supposed to hide? Emily stared down into the water, wondering what Jessie had in store for her. Chapter 9. The bath water looked so blue, so still, so deadly. I can't do it, Emily thought. She washed the blood off her hands and arms in the sink, dried quickly with a hand towel, then pulled on the nightshirt she had carried into the bathroom with her and walked back to her bedroom. Jessie looked up from her bed, a People magazine in her hands. What's wrong? I can't. Huh? I'm too tired and too upset, Emily said. It was really nice of you, but I think I just want to go to bed. Oh, Jessie looked disappointed. She tossed the magazine onto the floor and stood up. Might as well not let it go to waste, she said, and hurried past Emily to the bathroom. A few seconds later, Emily heard the splash of Jessie sitting down in the bathtub. The water was perfectly okay. Okay, so I misjudged her this time, Emily thought, wearily pulling down the covers of her bed. Jessie was obviously being nice now to throw her off guard. Again, Emily saw the blood, saw her poor tiger lying with that long straight cut across his chest. She shivered. It was so cold sleeping by the window. Why had she allowed Jessie to bully her and take away her bed by the wall? She hadn't slept comfortably ever since Jessie had arrived. How could she sleep comfortably? Jessie was a murderer. I've got to stop thinking, Emily told herself, feeling the diary under her pillow. I've got to shut off my mind, or I'll never get to sleep, never be able to think clearly again. She shut her eyes tightly and tried to drive away all of the horrid pictures that kept flashing across her mind. From across the hall, she heard the sound of the tub plug being pulled and the gurgle of the water starting to drain from the tub. Then she was floating dizzily in the dark, the room spinning so fast, spinning her to sleep. She was awakened a short while later by a hand gripping her shoulder. She raised her head and uttered a short cry, startled. What? It was dark, so dark she couldn't see a thing. That's odd, she thought, suddenly frightened. Usually some light comes in through the window. The hand gripped her shoulder tightly and shook her. Let go, Emily said, her voice choked with sleep. Who is it? The hand let go. A lamp clicked on. It was Jessie. She was sitting on the edge of Emily's bed. Her crinkly blonde hair was wild and disheveled. Her eyes, usually so pale blue, were dark and alive. Wake up, Emily. You've slept long enough, Jessie whispered. Her wide grin was frightening. What? What's the matter? Emily struggled to wake up, to clear her mind, but it was like swimming under water. She struggled and struggled but couldn't get to the surface. The bedroom light seemed to flicker and dim. How long have I been asleep? Emily asked. Not long. Jessie leaned down over her, still grinning. Emily saw a shadow behind Jessie. Someone else was in the room. Who's that? Emily asked. The light seemed to brighten. Krista stepped into view. Hi, Emily. Sorry about this, she said. She was grinning too, grinning at Jessie. It was some sort of a conspiracy, Emily realized. But what? What was Krista doing in her room in the middle of the night? I love your hair, Krista said, and both girls laughed loudly. Krista stepped closer. She was still wearing the dress she had on at the dance. Then Emily saw the knife in Jessie's hand. It was a big, black-handled kitchen knife. The blade was smeared with dark red blood. Hey! Emily still felt as if she were swimming underwater. Hey, what are you doing? You know, Jessie said. I love your hair, Krista said. Really? Jessie, wait, Emily cried. Jessie raised the knife. The blade was so red, so dripping red. Jessie, no! Jessie held the knife over Emily's head with one hand and gripped her shoulder with the other. No, please! Gripping her shoulder harder, she began to shake Emily. Emily closed her eyes and waited for the knife blade to drop. I'm dead, she thought. Jessie has killed me. I'm dead. Dead, dead, dead. Then she woke up. It was a dream, a frightening dream. The room was pitch black, and someone was gripping her shoulder. Chapter 10. No! Emily tried to scream, but no sound came out. Shh, it's me, said a familiar voice. He let go of her shoulder. Emily squinted in the darkness, her heart pounding. Rich? Yeah. She turned and sat up. The nightmare still hovered over her like a heavy cloud. It had seemed so real. She could still see the blood-stained knife blade, so red, so deadly red. Rich, what's the matter? What do you want? His face moved out of the shadows, pale gray in the dim light from the window. He looked very nervous. Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. But what do you want? She insisted. This was so weird. Rich never came into their room. What was he doing here now, shaking her like that, waking her up in the middle of the night? I didn't kill your dog, Rich said in a loud whisper. What? That's what I wanted to tell you. I didn't kill your dog. He moved even closer. His eyes peered into hers as if trying to determine whether or not she believed him. Rich, please, it's so late. The room was spinning. His face, so close to hers, was spinning with it. I didn't kill Tiger. I liked him. Really, please believe me. He had tears in his eyes. It seemed so terribly important to him that Emily believed him. I believe you, Emily said wearily. She wasn't really sure whether she believed him or not. The nightmare flashed through her mind once again, and once again she saw Jessie holding the bloody kitchen knife. Go back to sleep, Rich. I believe you. Thanks, he said, turning his head so she wouldn't see the tears. That's an odd thing to say, she thought. Thanks? He's so grateful to me for believing him? Thanks, he repeated, and disappeared into the darkness. Emily sat up, hoping it would make the room stop spinning. It helped a little. Why was it so cold in the room? She looked over to Jessie's bed. Jessie was such a light sleeper. Any little sound would wake her. Why hadn't she awakened when Rich had come into the room? Hey, wait. Jessie? Emily thought maybe her eyes were playing tricks on her. She climbed out of bed, feeling even colder away from the covers. She took a few steps across the room toward Jessie's bed. She was seeing correctly. The bed was empty. Feeling a gust of wind, Emily turned. The window was wide open. No wonder it was so cold in the room. The window was wide open, and Jessie was gone. Sneaked out. She probably climbed down the big old maple outside their window. But where did she go? Feeling the bump under her pillow, Emily remembered the diary. She pulled it out and, yawning, carried it over to the desk and turned on the desk lamp. It took a while for her sleep-filled eyes to focus on the tiny, precise handwriting. She kept thumbing backward through the days, not finding anything revealing. Then a section caught her eye. It seemed to jump off the page because Jessie's handwriting suddenly changed, as if this particular passage had been written rapidly, heatedly. Emily moved the desk lamp closer and started to read. Had a fight with Jolie, the section began. A big fight. I can't believe I trusted her. She is not a friend. She's the lowest. I hate her. Jolie. The name rang a bell with Emily. It was the name Jessie had mentioned the night of the shampoo incident. Emily skimmed a few pages, then gasped as she started to read again. They think I did it. They think I killed Jolie, the diary said. Killed Jolie? Jolie isn't here anymore. They found us. Just me and Jolie at the bottom of the slope. I told them I didn't do it. Jolie fell. It was an accident. It wasn't my fault, but Jolie is dead." The handwriting became very sloppy at this point, the letters all jagged and run together. "They think I killed Jolie. I guess I didn't handle it well at first. I couldn't answer their questions when the rest of our group found me next to her body. I guess I didn't make much sense, but it wasn't my fault. I kept saying that over and over. I could see that no one believed me, but I know the truth. I can tell that everyone thinks I killed her. I can tell by the way they look at me, by the way they whisper when I go past. But you know what? I don't care. I really don't. I don't care what they think. Jolie is dead. Nothing can change that. I have to go on with my life. I'm alive." Emily slammed the book shut. She had read enough. So that was the trouble Jessie had been in. Jolie had died. First, Jolie and Jessie had had a fight, and then Jolie was dead, and everyone believed Jessie had killed her. Was Jessie telling the truth in her diary? Did Jolie fall? Was it an accident? What really happened? Was Jessie a murderer? Her head spinning, Emily put the diary on the exact spot where she had found it. "I don't care what they think," Jessie had written. Jolie was dead, and Jessie didn't care. And where was Jessie now? Where had she run to? Emily realized she was too tired to think straight. She climbed back into her bed, and, seeing Jessie's scrawled words before her eyes, fell immediately into a troubled sleep. "Pass the milk, please," Mr. Walner said, scooting his stool up close to the counter. The whole family grabbed breakfast every morning around the kitchen counter, gulping down orange juice and milk, a quick bowl of cereal, or a couple slices of buttered toast. But it seemed different this morning, quieter without the clicking of Tiger's paws over the linoleum. Emily, feeling as if she hadn't slept at all, thought of poor Tiger, lying lifeless out on the back stoop. She kept looking down to the floor, almost expecting to see him there begging for crusts of toast. Since it was Saturday, everyone was still in pajamas and bathrobes, except for Emily, who quickly pulled on jeans and a t-shirt. Rich, looking very sleepy, kept giving Emily meaningful looks, which she didn't know how to interpret. Finally, she just stopped looking over at him. What a weird kid, she thought. What a sad, weird kid. "How are you feeling this morning, Em?" Mrs. Walner asked, gripping her coffee cup tightly, as if it might escape from her if she let it go. "I don't know. Okay, I guess," Emily answered. "I know," Mrs. Walner said cheerily. "Why don't you and I spend the day together? We can go shopping, and then have lunch like real ladies, and—" "Sorry, Mom. I'm going over to Kathy's. Then we're going to school. There's a special computer lab at school this morning, and—" "On Saturday?" Mr. Walner interrupted. "Yeah, we get to try some new word processing program. So Kathy and I thought we'd—" "Morning, everyone." Jessie entered the kitchen quietly and climbed up onto the empty stool on the end, a pleasant smile on her face. "Pass the orange juice, please." I wonder when she got in, Emily thought. Emily had been awakened by a garbage truck on the street at 7, and Jessie still hadn't returned to her room. She was out all night, and look how perky she looks, Emily thought, staring as Jessie gulped down a tall glass of juice. I guess I underestimated Jessie's acting ability, Emily thought. "You look very pretty today," Mrs. Walner said to Jessie. "Really? Thanks. I didn't sleep very well last night," Jessie said. She's a good actress, and a good liar, Emily thought. No one was talking about Tiger, Emily realized. No one wanted to talk about the fact that a murder had been committed in this very kitchen the night before. Maybe I'll tell everyone that Jessie sneaked out and was gone all night, Emily thought. Maybe I'll let them know what a sneak Jessie is. But she didn't have the strength for a screaming confrontation this morning. She decided to save this little secret, save it for a time she really needed it. "Maybe I'll help you clean the garage out this morning," Jessie said enthusiastically to her dad. "Great," he replied, his mouth full of cornflakes. "Too bad you won't be here, Emily," he said, leaning over the counter to see her better. "Then the whole family could pitch in. I like family activities." Some family, Emily thought glumly. A murder was committed here last night, and everyone's acting as if this is just another normal day. She glanced at her watch. "Oh, I'm going to be late." She hopped down off the stool and hurried up to her room to get her backpack and her down jacket. "Where are you going so early?" Nancy called, just coming down to breakfast. "Out of here," Emily shouted, slamming the door behind her. When she picked up Kathy, she was still feeling really down. "What's your problem?" Kathy asked, noticing it immediately. "If I tell you, you won't believe it," Emily told her friend bitterly. "Wow," Kathy said. "What did your stepsister do this time?" By the time they got to the computer lab in school, Emily had told her the whole story. She was reluctant at first. Why should Kathy have to hear the whole horrible tale? But it felt good to unburden herself, and it felt good to get some sympathy and understanding for a change. "You poor thing," Kathy said, as they found places at the long table in the lab. "If I had a wacko stepsister like that, I don't know what I'd do. Run away, probably." "Well, I'm not running away," Emily said, pulling off her jacket. "I was there first." She sighed loudly and plopped down in a chair. As the instructor entered the room, she pulled her backpack up onto the table and unzipped it. She started to reach into the backpack, stopped, and screamed. "Emily, what on earth?" Kathy cried. Emily couldn't answer. Instead, her hands trembling, she pulled open the backpack. "Oh no, I don't believe it," Kathy groaned. Someone had stuffed Tiger's corpse into the backpack.